My boyfriend's company organized a group trip for employees, and he insisted I come along. When we arrived at the airport, most of the employees were already there. The women were dressed to impress, and the men were in suits and ties, as if they were attending some high-profile event. Just after passing through security, I overheard someone sneer loudly, "What bad luck. How did a nobody manage to sneak into this elite gathering?" My boyfriend heard it too, but instead of defending me, he subtly stepped away to distance himself. Before I could even ask him why, he turned around and wrapped his arm around another woman right in front of me. "At least with Miss Camilla, I won't have to sit in economy class. What about you?" he said smugly. I froze for a few seconds before letting out a small laugh. I could have this plane turn around if I wanted. If he hadn't repeatedly begged me, I wouldn't have come on this trip at all. To make him happy, I even requested special permission from my superiors. But to my surprise, he decided to break up with me when we arrived at the airport, simply because I couldn't afford to fly business class. What hurt the most wasn't his shallowness, it was the fact that I had already told him I couldn't be too flashy due to my special status. I guess he still doesn't know how many pairs of eyes are on me every time I travel. "Natalie Winters, I never thought you'd turn into such a liar," he scoffed. "I used to think you were at least honest, even if you were poor. But now, you're making up ridiculous stories just to keep me?" He smirked. "Do yourself a favor, cancel your ticket while you still can. At least you'll save some money." Before I could respond, the woman by his side let out a condescending laugh. "Allow me to introduce myself," she said. "I'm Camilla Beaumont, the owner of your boyfriend's company. Most people call me Miss Camilla." She flipped her hair back and continued, "Since your boyfriend already explained things to you, let's not waste time. I want him. Name your price." I looked at the two of them. Their performance was so synchronized, it was almost comical. I chuckled. Judging by how things are playing out, I don't have much of a choice here, do I? When I was at the base, my boyfriend had called me over and over, practically begging me to come on this trip. I had assumed it was because he couldn't bear to be apart from me. Now, it was clear that he and Miss Camilla had planned this all along. The moment I spoke, Brandon's face stiffened. "Don't make stuff up," he said. "Miss Camilla and I have always been just colleagues. You should blame yourself. You're the one who refuses to work harder. Your salary is pathetic. How do you expect anyone to live like that?" I stood there, stunned. Me, not working hard enough? My salary is pathetic? I mentally calculated my income. Excluding year-end bonuses, I make at least several $100,000 monthly. The reason he thought I was poor was simple. I never dressed up. But it wasn't because I couldn't afford to. I was under a strict 5-year confidentiality agreement. I couldn't tell him. My clothes and daily necessities were all issued by my unit. I even had a car and driver assigned to me whenever I left the premises. This time was the one time I had begged my superiors to grant me a bit of personal freedom. I had already accepted that Brandon was leaving me because he thought I was poor, but humiliating me in public like this? That, I couldn't swallow. I took a deep breath. "Brandon, we haven't even broken up yet, and you're already involved with someone else. That's called cheating." I locked eyes with him, refusing to look away. On the other hand, Brandon avoided my gaze, his guilt written all over his face. Camilla's smug expression hardened the moment she heard my words. She clung to my boyfriend's arm, her posture dripping with arrogance. "Cheating? Seriously?" she sneered. "He already dumped you. Stop acting pathetic and get lost." Then, as if to put an end to the conversation, she reached into her designer purse, pulled out a stack of cash, 20,000, and tossed it at my feet. "Take the money immediately and disappear." I stared at her like she was a clueless fool, utterly unaware of the disaster she was courting. "Miss Camilla, do you really think I need your money?" My lips curled into a smirk. "I suggest you rethink your attitude, because if I say the word, none of you are getting on that plane today." Before the last syllable even left my mouth, Brandon, my so-called boyfriend, stood up. "Natalie, stop bluffing. Who the hell do you think you are?" he scoffed. "I've been with you long enough to know you don't even own a car. Meanwhile, Camilla rented a private jet for me. What do you have to compete with her? I can't afford a car? How dare he say that? I always have a team to drive me everywhere. Do I still need to buy a car?" I would have wanted to slap him across the face if it weren't for my special status. His words sent the onlookers into fits of laughter. "Did you hear that? A woman who can't even keep her own man. She's got no money, no status, and doesn't even know how to dress properly. It's pathetic." "That's right. Look at her outfit. I would bet everything she's wearing doesn't even add up to $100. The employees, eager to suck up to Camilla, jeered and mocked me. Not one of them stood up for me. To them, I was nothing more than a joke, a clown for their entertainment. What a joke of a company. It probably wouldn't last much longer. I ignored these people's mockery of me and turned to leave. But before I could take more than a few steps, Camilla's shrill voice cut through the air. "Oh, weren't you full of confidence just now? Why are you suddenly running away?" I stopped, turned back, and met her gaze with icy indifference. "I have nothing to say to people like you." After hearing my words, Camilla's face immediately changed. "Little bitch. What the hell is that supposed to mean?" she snarled, eyes flashing with rage. "Looking down on me, huh?" I let out a short laugh and nodded. "I'm not looking down on you, but I'm looking down on all of you." When these words came out, the scene instantly exploded. Though most of the crowd consisted of company employees, there was no shortage of high-level leaders. Their expressions turned cold, their eyes sharp with hostility, as if they wanted to rip me apart on the spot. Camilla was so angry that she jerked up her arm and rushed over to fight me, but Brandon stepped in and held her back before she could reach me. "Babe, calm down," he cooed. "She's not worth it. Hitting her would only dirty your hands." I initially thought he was afraid that I would get hurt before saying this on purpose, but I didn't expect Brandon's following words to blow my mind directly. "Just let her leave. She's an eyesore anyway. Anyway, my heart has long belonged to you now." I stared at him in stunned disbelief. Brandon and I had met during a New Year's blind date in our hometown. I had always believed that, in our time together, I had never once wronged him. I spent all of my only time off each month on dating him. I dedicated it to him. I spent every free day with him. Apart from the material things that I can't satisfy him for the time being, I can say that I have done everything in other aspects. Yet, at this moment, my lingering affection for him vanished entirely. "Brandon, I won't argue with you anymore," I said calmly, my voice steady. "I just have one thing to tell you." Halfway through my sentence, I paused for a few seconds, and my eyes glazed just over? Breaking up with me? You will 100% regret it. I remembered that we had once loved each other, and I had thought of getting together and parting ways, but there were some people who didn't appreciate my love at all, like the man standing in front of me. Natalie, are you still putting on a show? If I regret it, then I must be a dog, right? Brandon sneered, in front of so many employees, but also big talk about what I will regret. What do you have to compete with Miss Camilla? You are dreaming if you think I will regret this. Seeing that he still wanted to continue on, I hastily raised my hand to interrupt him. Good, that's all I needed to hear. Remember this moment. Whatever happens next, you brought it on yourself. Without another word, I pulled out my cell phone from my pocket and dialed my assistant's number. Hey, immediately help me buy a business class airplane ticket. Right now. The person on the other end of the phone heard my voice and flinched. Miss Natalie, don't you usually like to travel in a low profile? How come this sudden? I glanced at my ex-boyfriend and spoke coldly. Being too low-key only invites people to underestimate you. Just as my words left my mouth, my assistant immediately understood their meaning. Okay, I will book it right away. A few seconds later, her voice returned, slightly nervous. Miss Natalie, business class is fully booked. Do you think the first class is okay? I waved my hand with disinterest. It's the same for me, wherever I sit. Go on with it. Then, as if suddenly remembering something, I added, actually, have the airport staff remove a few people from the flight. I doubt they'll do me any harm. I listed the names, Camilla Beaumont and Brandon Westwood. My assistant noted them down without hesitation. After hanging up, I strolled back to the waiting lounge. Because I always kept my phone on loudspeaker during calls, Camilla had heard every word. She burst into laughter. She clung onto my ex-boyfriend's arm and patted my shoulder with mock sympathy. Natalie, have you lost your mind over being dumped? She smirked. This plane's first class isn't even available for public booking. I couldn't even get a seat when I chartered a flight. I advise you not to hold on. It will be humiliating if you can't board the plane later. She giggled as if she had just told the funniest joke in the world. I slowly lifted my head and met her gaze, my expression unreadably cold. Don't be in a hurry. Later, you will know exactly who is not qualified to sit. Seeing this, Brandon, who was on the side, also spoke out in agreement, not letting go of the opportunity to perform in front of Camilla. He pulled out 2 golden membership cards and waved them in my face again and again. See what this is? These are American Airlines Advantage Gold cards, which ordinary people can't even see. He leaned in, his grin smug. Miss Camilla just got me too. What do you have that can compete with her? Then, as if to prove his point further, he turned and kissed Camilla right in front of me. The surrounding employees erupted in laughter. She really thought she had a chance. Some people just don't know their place. If you can't afford luxury, don't embarrass yourself by pretending you can. Not self-important is the sentence I've heard the most today. Seeing the scene in front of me further confirmed the conjecture in my heart. My boyfriend, he had already cheated on me a long time ago. I naturally won't leave a trace of mercy for people like him. I turned my face aside, not even bothering to look at him. Brandon's face immediately changed when he saw how cold my attitude was. Natalie, what's with that attitude? You even dare to ignore me now, don't you? I looked down and played with my phone, my tone no longer carrying an ounce of emotion. Mr. Brandon, wasn't breaking up exactly what you wanted from the start? Now that I've agreed, why do you seem so unhappy? I glanced up briefly, then smirked. I advise you to stop focusing on me, lest the lady beside you get upset. Brandon's face twisted in anger. Fine, that's what you said. Make it sound like I would still want you anyway. With that, he wrapped his arm around Camilla and, without hesitation, the two of them began kissing right in front of me. Their little display had the surrounding employees pulling out their phones, capturing the moment as if it were some kind of grand romance. Meanwhile, I just sat there, entirely unmoved. Strangely enough, watching them made me feel nothing. No anger, no sadness, just an odd sense of relief. It was as if a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Just then, the airport's announcement system came to life. Passengers of flight G493, boarding will commence shortly. Please proceed to the gate for check-in. Camilla reluctantly broke away, licking her lips as if savoring the moment, then gracefully stood up. Come on, darling, let's take the exclusive passageway, she purred before glancing at me, amusement twinkling in her eyes. As for some people, well, looks like you will have to stand in line with the commoners. I remained seated, chuckling softly. Oh, is that so? I tilted my head, eating her gaze. Miss Camilla, how about we make a little bet? Her smirk faltered slightly. A bet? I nodded. I bet that your flight won't take off today. Before Camilla could respond, the surrounding bootlickers erupted into laughter. Did you all hear that? This bitch. Nobody thinks she can control an entire flight. Too funny. This is simply the funniest joke I've ever heard in my life. I've been on so many airplanes, and I've never seen anyone able to stop a plane from taking off. All these gaily dressed female employees formed a united front and bombarded me with words. One by one, the air was thick with mockery as Camilla's entourage scrambled to flatter her. Brandon, naturally, wouldn't miss his chance to shine. Natalie, you should really take a look at yourself in the mirror before running your mouth. With Miss Camilla's influence, she could buy out the entire flight if she wanted to. I suppressed a chuckle and turned back to Camilla. Since Miss Camilla is so powerful, do you dare to take the bet just now? Her lips curled into an arrogant grin. Bet? Fine. Do you think I would be scared of a nobody like you? Let's do it. A round of applause broke out among the crowd as if she had just made the most heroic declaration of the century. I scanned the sea of faces, all filled with ridicule and disdain, and an undeniable disappointment settled in my chest. Was this indeed their worldview? To fawn over the rich and belittle those they deemed beneath them, all for the sake of keeping their jobs? If I weren't concerned about the consequences, I could have every single one of them blacklisted from this airport in an instant. I held back the anger in my heart and slowly raised my head, sweeping the circle with my eyes. You all heard it, I said, calm yet firm. What the heir to the hallowed Beaumont group said can't be reversed. Whoever loses between Miss Camilla and I will run around the airport naked. A hushed silence fell over the crowd before Camilla let out a short laugh. What makes you so confident? Do you think you own this airport or something? I smiled faintly. Camilla Beaumont, you've been testing my patience over and over again. Did you really think I would just let you walk all over me? My true identity is something even the Beaumont Corporation can't afford to provoke. Hearing my my words, Camilla didn't back down. Instead, she became even more arrogant. Little bitch, you are addicted to pretending, aren't you? She sneered, and then smirked triumphantly. Open your dog's eyes wide later, and give me a good look at how the plane actually took off. With that, she hooked her arm around Brandon's and started confidently toward the boarding gate. I followed behind, calm as ever. Once everyone had boarded, the plane taxied onto the runway, preparing for takeoff. But just then, I didn't know who had shouted out in the airplane cabin, "Guys, look outside."